Hey guys, it's Gwen with another quarantine vlog because I'm home. You guys are home. Might as well. So today we're gonna chat about college. I went to Penn State. I had a semi good experience in college. I hope that this will kind of help if you're either applying to college, maybe you're going back to college, or if you're going to college in the fall. Maybe this will kind of help. This is like stuff that has been like whirling around in my mind since I graduated college, like things that I noticed or things that I really wish that someone would have told me as I was going through the college process of like applying and like trying to figure out which school was right for me based on like what I wanted to do, and also like how I could have maybe spent my time a little bit differently while I was at college. So I have some notes. I'm a big note person because I didn't want to forget to tell you guys everything that I've kind of been like thinking about recently. I don't know why it's been recent with the college stuff. I've been out of college for a couple years at this point. So, but this is stuff that like always kind of like bothers me. Mostly because I feel like I didn't really have like I thought I had a clear vision of like what I wanted to do, and I was like, "Oh yeah, you do this track when you go to college for this thing." And then once I graduated, it was like, "You have no experience." So, I feel like a lot of people, especially in like arts majors, can maybe like relate to that a little bit. So, first, I think that it starts in high school. I noticed when you graduate high school, the emphasis isn't so much on what you're interested in or what you actually like to do or like the subject that you really liked. At least this is like obviously my experience in high school. Maybe yours was different. But especially with like guidance counselors, like I think maybe I saw the guidance counselor one time during like the whole college process, like your junior year when you start like looking at colleges to apply to. It wasn't really a helpful experience. There wasn't like, a discussion about, topics that you like or interests or subjects or different career paths you might like. It really like wasn't anything like that. It was just kind of like making sure you were on track actually applying for college. So I think that there is some kind of disconnect between like the emphasis on your interests as an individual graduating from high school and possibly considering college versus like the high school needing to have a really high percentage of students that are accepted into college. So again, it's kind of like a business almost. It's like this weird ulterior motive that like it's like we don't really care about you. We just need you to get into college. So I think that's problematic at best. High school, I think, should offer maybe some more opportunities for classes in like college does, like kind of maybe weird classes. Like in college I took astronomy and meteorology. Like wouldn't that have been cool to take in high school, to be like, "Oh, maybe I want to be a meteorologist." It's like, no, like you think if you want to be on TV, you can only be a news anchor, right? Or something like that. And it's like, no, you can be a meteorologist too. You can go this track and learn more about weather. And like, I didn't know that. I mean, I watched the news and I was like, I've never really considered like how these people get this job. I didn't know that. I was also maybe the last generation that didn't grow up with the internet, like, and phones our whole life. Like when I was graduating high school, that's when YouTube like sort of came out. I remember like going on our homeroom computer and like checking out E-Bombs World. If you guys remember that, that's so old school. OG on YouTube. So we didn't have like, I don't want to make like excuses, but we didn't have like the research capabilities to be like, "Oh, I want to be a sound engineer." Like what even is that? Like I would have loved to do that, but we didn't have like the research tools to be like, let me look at some other, I want to do something in music, but I don't want to be like a musician. Like I don't want to play the violin in an orchestra, but like what else can I do? Like that would have been so cool. Like I said in my last video, where I told you guys that I played the flute in my 10 random things, that I was really good at it and I really enjoyed playing, but I knew I didn't want to play in college because I was going to Penn State and they have the blue band, which is like a huge commitment, and you travel with the football team and it kind of like takes over your life. So I was like, "Oh, I don't want to do that." But I could have been a studio musician. I didn't know that was a job. You could play in an orchestra that does film soundtracks. Like how cool would that have been? Like in the Joker soundtrack, how cool would that have been, right? But I didn't know that was a job. So basically, I wish there was more opportunity in high schools for kids to kind of explore weird options, you know? So I think that insight to some other job options would be helpful for kids, especially now when there's even weirder jobs than like when I graduated high school. Like, I guess not that long ago, technically, but so much has changed in such a short amount of time that now you can be a YouTuber and like that's a job. So you don't have to go to college to do that. But maybe kids like don't know how to even go about that. So it's just like really interesting how things have changed. Also, something that I maybe didn't consider as I was applying for college is, so Penn State was kind of like a family legacy type thing. I did apply to other colleges, but Penn State was like my main one. And my dad had gone to Penn State. My uncle went to Penn State. I got in. My sister went to a different college, but eventually transferred to Penn State. So it's like this big family thing. However, since I'm based out of Philadelphia, Penn State's main campus is about 3 hours away for driving. So I was in the middle of nowhere. Penn State's in the middle of the state of Pennsylvania, and it's like surrounded by farms in like every direction for miles and miles. So it's very rural and agriculture like type area. So as far as contacts for after you graduate, if you didn't have an internship or something, or friends, or your parents had friends maybe in Philly or like even like Pittsburgh, or if you were going to New York City, like you're not going to have the contacts if, like, say if I stayed in Philadelphia, which was one of my options that I wanted to do. I wanted to go to Temple for their broadcast journalism program, but my parents were like not super into the landscape at Temple. There's like a lot of crime in that area. It wasn't like a super good area for like a little girl to be walking around campus, I guess they thought. So I felt like when I graduated, even though I did have 3 internships, none of those places were hiring. It was at 3 different radio stations, and they weren't hiring when I graduated. So it was kind of like I did free labor for 6 months out of my life 3 times that was unpaid, and then didn't have a job at the end of it. So it's just kind of, as far as contacts, make sure you're thinking like, you know, if you want to, like, I'm an actor now, right? But I didn't know I wanted to do that when I was 17 years old. Because I had at that point only been acting in high school plays, and I was like, this is kind of like not my thing. But I didn't know that theater and film were different. I didn't know that. I didn't know you could major in acting or theater in college. I didn't know that. But say maybe you would go to a school in New York City if you could, versus like going to Penn State in the middle of nowhere that like maybe doesn't have the access to like contacts when you graduate. So you have to be like forward thinking, but it's so much to be thinking about when you're 17 years old and you have like limited life experience. You haven't really like seen the world. And like, it's like this huge life decision that you're basing on not knowing very much yet. I also know in like Europe, they have something called the gap year. So this is a year that students can take off between when they graduate high school and when, like, before they go to college. So you can take this time to maybe like learn something new, or like kind of pursue an interest that you maybe had but don't have a lot of experience in. So I think maybe that needs to be more of a thing here in the States, because that can give you time to even like grow up a little bit between like 17 and 18 or 18 and 19. Like that's like, doesn't seem like a lot of time to like grow up, but like it sure is, especially like when you're trying to kind of find yourself and like find what you're really interested in. I think that would have been really beneficial for me also. I think the big thing is, though, like the big question that you'd need to ask, whether you're like heading to college or maybe you're going back to college as an adult, is like, what do I actually like to do? Like something that makes you very happy and something that like you won't get burned out on, something that you're motivated to pursue, and can you make money in it? So I had friends in college that were like history majors. So I was always kind of confused, like, what kind of job do you get from that, aside from being a history teacher or maybe like working in a museum? But like, as far as a range of options for careers, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure, but like, I would just like, if I had to go back and do it all over again, to pick something where you had more options. Because at Penn State, I went for telecommunications, which was like a broadcast track of the College of Communications, and then I minored in music technology. So I knew that I wanted to be an on-air radio personality, which I was, but then I was also interested in studio recording, so if I wanted to work at a recording studio. However, both of those things that I picked were more like there was some hands-on stuff as far as classes were in like my major core classes junior and senior year of college, but a lot of it was read this textbook, right? Or like, look at this diagram. It's like, why can't we go to a recording studio, right? And that goes back to the, availability of real world like application. Like I would rather go to a recording studio and look at all the equipment and use the board myself and create something. But that opportunity isn't available when you're in the middle of nowhere in the farms, right? There's not just a recording studio. So that's when like doing your research really has to come into play, as long as you know what you want to do. But when you don't, it makes it a lot harder, which is why that gap year I think would be really interesting. And like the stigma in society needs to like ease up and like go away. Like, oh, I didn't go to college right away. It's like, yeah, well, maybe you needed to do some more exploring. Because I know that definitely wouldn't have been an option, like with my parents. Like if I was like, I'm gonna take a gap year, they would have been like, no. So I think it's not like you're being lazy. It's like you're being smart and trying to find out what you actually want to do. If you don't know what you like, I feel like that's totally fine, because you're 17, or maybe you're going back to school because you know you want to learn something new, but you don't know what. And it's like, maybe you should just like check out some online class, like take an online class, or go to a community college and take a class and be like a part-time student for a little bit, or try a trade. Like I told you guys in a couple videos now that I'm a cosmetologist, but I had to graduate college and then live in the real world for a couple years to like figure out that you had to go to like hair school. I didn't know that. Like I didn't know what cosmetology school was, but I would have loved that to be maybe presented to me as an option when I was in high school. Like that would have been so cool. Like it only takes 8 months, so that could have been like a gap year type thing. Like, oh, I didn't even know that I liked makeup, right? But when I was in school and like a section of cosmetology school focuses on makeup, I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is like painting. It's like art. So I didn't even know that I liked that. So I would have really appreciated like the trade school option, like vocational type options, because in my high school there was like a little bit of a stigma against like vo-tech kids. The thing is, though, those people probably got jobs right away and have a skill that's applicable to real life, and probably like own their own business now. And I feel like my skills were so specific to radio that they're not transferable to like other options. So like when I decided that I wasn't going to be in radio anymore, I was like, oh, I don't have any skills. So that's why I still like to do podcasting. I still like to do YouTube videos, because I love broadcasting and connecting with people and like talking. But it was like kind of like you have to get creative, because my one skill that I know how to do isn't super transferable to like other facets of, even broadcasting. Another good option is like an associate's program or a 2-year program. I know that there, like for me, in my case, there's a school called the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, and you can basically do the same, like you could learn the same skills in radio and like editing and how to run the board, all the technical stuff that I did in 4 years in 18 months. So when I think about that, it kind of makes me sad, but I didn't know that was a thing. I found out what that was when I was like 23. So it definitely pays to do your research. It's a lot easier to do research now if you're thinking about school. So just take that time, because it'll definitely be worth it. And as far as loans go, I have friends that are deep into their 30s and still paying off their student loans. So if you can kind of like cheat the system a little bit and go for an 18-month program and pay a couple $1,000s instead of $80,000 or $150,000, I totally get it. Now there is a little bit of a disclaimer. Like I had a lot of friends in college that were engineers, that were, pre-med, things like that. I feel like that side of things, it makes sense. College makes sense. And there's a track for that. And there's very specific, like, different things you have to go through, like grad school, doctorate, right? But like this whole chat and everything that I think about is like more for like arts people and things that maybe you don't really need to go to college for. And like there's this whole stigma in our society that you like have to go to college, and it's expensive. It's not always helpful for you as an adult and then you're paying for it for like ever. It doesn't make sense to me. It really seems like college is outdated. And we really need to ask ourselves what we like to do and how we can make money at doing that thing that we really like. Because then I feel like you're going to be happy forever. You're not going to feel like you're going to work, right? So that's the dream right there. I think that's it. I was trying to go through all my notes. So thanks so much, guys. That's my college experience, college misconceptions. I hope it's helpful. It's just like stuff that I have like clanging around up there that I feel like I needed to get out. So that's another quarantine vlog. We did it. Make sure you like and subscribe and ring the bell so that you'll get a notification every time I upload a new video, because these are really fun, right? And thanks so much, guys. I'm Karle Gwen.